Hello everyone, this is Jacob Popio, the producer of The Apex. In this episode, Jan, RJ, and I sit down for the new 5-minute rant series. In this episode, we rant about focus on what you're gaining. If you want to support us, there are two ways to do so. One is to donate to our cause at www.patreon.com/theapexpodcast. The other is completely free. All we ask is if you learn something from the episode or know someone that needs to hear our message, share it with them. Please subscribe and hope this pushes you toward your apex.
Welcome, Apex Chasers, to another episode of the Apex Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jan Almasy, and with me today are both of my partners in crime, Mr. Jacob Popio, our wonderful producer, the voice that you hear oh so fondly in the beginning of every show.
That's not me.
And Mr. R.J. Holiday.
That is me.
There it is.
Hi, that is you.
Okay, guys. So today, first off, I want to start off by thanking everybody for listening to another episode of the Apex Podcast. We don't charge any fees here. The only thing that we ask is if you know somebody that needs to hear a message that you hear on this show, don't be afraid to share it with them. We're really trying to impact as many people as we can and help as many people as possible. So try to reach out to a friend if you know that they're struggling and they need to read one of the blog posts or they need to hear one of these episodes. Make sure that you're not shy about sharing it with them. Make sure you're impacting other people's lives and helping them chase their apex. With that, this episode is going to be a little bit different than the episodes that we've recorded in the past, mainly because we're going to try a new structure. Okay, normally we have, whether it's a review of a blog post or we have an interview, they're a lot longer, they're an hour plus long, but we've been getting a lot of feedback lately on shorter podcasts that provide practical input into ways that you guys can implement apex chasing principles into your lives. So what we're going to do today is start a new series called the 5-Minute Rants. Okay, so a 5-minute rant is essentially allowing one of the members of the core team here, myself, Mr. RJ Holiday, or Mr. Jacob Popio, 5 minutes behind the microphone to really just vent about something that drove us crazy the past week or month or in our lives in general. So we are going to initiate that today. What's going to happen is we're going to get 5 minutes to rant behind the microphone. Each of the other two people here are going to get 2.5 minutes to respond. And then at the end, we're going to offer you practical tips that you can use to start changing some of the mentalities that we talk about on a daily basis. Okay.
That was a lot of talking.
Now that I got that out of the way.
Now, with all that talking, your long-windedness, we have like 10 minutes to do this whole thing. You're lying to them
Who's
already.
the timekeeper?
I am.
Time. You
It's me.
volunteer
I have it
tribute?
up.
You got it going?
Huh? I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to
Ready to
shut
rock
you
and roll?
down if you get close to 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, let me know when to start.
5, 3, 1.
Go. Okay. All right, guys. So my rant for today is I was sitting at the gym not too long ago, and I was listening to a conversation of this gentleman sitting next to me. And the entire time he was talking about how hard it was for him to stick to his diet routine, how hard it was for him to get to the gym every day, and how much he missed real food, quote unquote, or, drinking a beer, whatever else he was talking about. He was so focused on things that he was giving up. He was literally sitting there letting his mind reel on stuff that was detrimental to his life. Things that, I'm sitting there just waiting for my protein shake to get made, listening to this conversation, getting agitated because he's talking about all of these reasons why he shouldn't be at the gym. Almost like I should be giving him a high five for showing up for the day. Like he's asking people for that, confirmation that he's like, you know what, good job. Even though you got all that going on, high five for making it to the gym. Mm-hmm. But I think that that's a sick mentality that people focus on these things that they're giving up rather than what they have to gain. So before I get into the actual point behind that, I'm going to compare it to one other thing. And it's a conversation that I had with somebody where they were in a previous relationship with somebody. They had broken up with that person. However, that person was still present in their lives. Okay, so now they had this ex significant other that was still present in their lives and still influencing their daily decisions. And this person felt like that ex was holding them back, was causing them to not be the best version of themselves. And they told me that recently they had this epiphany that they had been so focused on losing that person, they were so focused on losing the potential friendship or whatever else, that they allowed that person to stay in their lives. Okay. So now they told me that they transitioned over to them moving into being able to move past that relationship. They saw what they had to gain if they let that person leave their lives. They saw the potential for what they could become if they cut the bad fruit off of the tree. So just like that guy at the gym, if we mentally focus on what we're losing out on, we don't get the chance to even see what the possibilities are in the future. We get so focused on waking up and, if your routine right now is going to Dunkin' Donuts every morning and getting a donut and some coffee, if you cut that out and you consistently working out and stuff, you're going to lose 1 or 2 pounds. It might not be a whole lot, but it's a good start. But if you constantly wake up every morning and you're thinking Dunkin', your brain is automatically going to want you to go to Dunkin' Donuts. But if you wake up every morning, you're thinking, you know what? I'm making good progress. I'm making good goals. Your brain starts to think about that positive impact and what you're gaining rather than the fact that you're giving up that apple fritter. Okay.
Oh, no.
So I love apple fritters just as much as the next guy, right? But you need to start focusing on what you're going to get out of whatever you're doing, whether it's cutting somebody out of your life or it's a diet that you're on that really should turn into a lifestyle, not a diet, but that's a different topic for a different day. Or you're in a position at a job and you're stuck in this job and you're like, okay, you know what? If I apply for another position, I might not get it. But if I don't apply for it, what am I missing out on? What is the potential that I'm missing out on by selling myself short, by not going for it, by not applying that position, by not changing? What am I losing by refusing to get out of my comfort zone? A lot of people are successful inside of their bubble, inside of their comfort zone, but then they step out into the big world and realize they're a tiny fish in a big pond. When you're in a little pond and you're the only big fish in the area, you might think that you're confident. You might think that you have a lot of stuff going for you. But as soon as you step outside of that comfort zone and outside of your realm of, control and realize that there are a lot of people out there working just as hard, working, longer hours and everything else, you realize how short you actually fall. And you have to focus on things that you're gaining rather than things that you're giving up in order to make any progress whatsoever, no matter what area of life it's in. That's it. That's all I got.
Ooh, with 30 seconds to spare. Killing it.
All right.
All right, Mr. Note
Who would
Taker.
like to go first?
Doodling over there, or are you
Note
taking
taker?
notes? You're up.
Taking notes.
All right. So now we move into, what is this, just thought? Is this supposed to be just thoughts or rebuttal?
This is not rebuttal, but like 2.5 minutes of
Just what we think on,
yeah,
to
what
add
you
on
think,
to your...
what your thoughts
Gotcha.
are.
What we're jiving with.
Yep.
All right, Jake, you ready?
Yep.
On your go. Hit it.
Well, firstly, like my segue from what you just said, you said that there's people that are just working just as hard. I would argue, yes, there's people working just as hard, but there's also those people that are working harder than you. Because they're not they might not be as gifted as you in some regard, but they might be more gifted in the regard that they are working harder than you.
Right.
So with that being said, you have to kind of look at giving up the little things as just like the little things in the road as you're going to the ultimate goal. So I can equate it to like a dichotomy, if you will, because Jan loves dichotomies. It's like kind of like a coin. So on one side, it's giving up the little things, but you're gaining a goal.
Okay.
So the goal is an ultimate big thing, with all the little things.
They're like the rungs on the ladder.
Yeah, they're like so minuscule, but it's easier to get caught up in it because sometimes we forget about the ultimate goal at the end. Because sometimes it's hard for us to picture it, it's easier to just dream about it and then forget about it. But if you dream about it, then think about each one of your little blips in the road or the little trials to find your ultimate goal. So if you're spending less time focusing on the little things, focus a little bit more on the larger thing, then you'll be able to kind of paint the picture a little bit more clearly.
Just changing your focus a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what else I could say. Because you hit on like the relationship. So this whole mentality can go to mentally, physically, even emotionally. Because I would argue that people kind of struggle in one regard a little bit more than others. Like, so maybe kind of shift your focus and into that ultimate goal.
I got
I
you.
agree with that.
Yeah. Like one of the pillars is weakest.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's always like the weakest link in the chain, your Achilles heel, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
If you're emotionally weak,
Then that's
focus
what you-
on that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Focus on developing your weakness into a strength kind of thing.
Right on the money. I was watching you. I was going to have to cut your mic off. All right, my turn?
Your turn.
Keeper.
All right, well,
someone
I'm
else.
going to hide my own clock, but just trust me that I do 2.5 minutes.
Well, hand it
I'm
over.
just kidding.
Let me see it.
Alrighty. So to kind of add on to what both of you guys said, I have always been told by people in my family that there is always someone working harder than you. There is always somebody who's more naturally gifted than you, and you should always work to 110% of your ability. I've always liked that idea. It keeps me motivated. To add on further to everything else that you said as well, it is very easy to look at all the bad things or the grueling things that make up any type of sacrifice. But if you keep in your mind anything worth pursuing is also worth sacrifice, then it makes it a lot easier.
Okay. Yeah.
At no point has anybody ever told you that focusing on the negative aspects is going to help motivate you towards your end goal?
Right.
You're way better off, just like Jacob said, focusing on the bigger, more important goals that you're reaching than thinking about any of all the small stuff that you're giving up in that moment. Personally, when it comes to bodybuilding, yeah, it's obviously impossible on a day-to-day basis to be like, oh, well, I'm not having this apple fritter. I can't have pop. I can't have candy. Because regardless of when you do a show, there's going to be some holiday, some event, some birthday, some graduation, someone else's birthday that you're going to be missing and not be able to enjoy on. But instead of being like getting down on yourself in that moment, use it, manipulate it. Take it, be like, I can't wait to go and bust my butt in the gym for the next month so that when I'm done with my show, I can enjoy, the cake that I missed out on or the ice cream that I missed out on, rather than sitting there and fishing for, people to feel sorry for you, or not even feel sorry for you, but be like, oh, wow, you mean he's working so hard because he's given up so much. No, I mean, I don't think someone's sacrifice is equatable to how much success or how hard they're working. People can give up a lot and do nothing with it. But now if you talk about or focus on what good you're doing for yourself and the progress that you made, that I see as in my own eyes is way more commendable than what you've been giving up.
Boom.
Eat it.
Right on the money. Okay. All right. So this last little section here, I think that we're just going to offer you guys some tips, take them as you will, but just some things that we personally experienced that can help you in the long run with this topic. So the topic we're grappling with right now, if you haven't figured it out by now, is how can you shift your focus from things that you're giving up on a daily basis to helping, like Jacob Popio pointed out in his 2.5 minutes, like the end goal of what you're trying to do. So I'm going to kind of take what he said and flip it a little bit. So he talked about all the little things that you're giving up in the road being your obstacle to that main goal or being the thing that demotivates you, because it is really easy to get caught up in, oh, I can't do this, or oh, I can't do that. You know, and one of the biggest things I hear to your point, and I'm pointing at RJ here, is people are like, oh, I'll start after the holidays, or I'll start after my birthday, or I'll start.
Make the distancing excuses.
Right, exactly. So what I say is don't focus on the little, you know, and you'll hear a lot of different people say this, but I'll just, you know, remind you from my perspective is don't focus on the little detriments along the way, but count the little victories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So instead of saying, you know what, oh, I didn't get to go to Dunkin' this morning, or oh, I had to go to the gym today to do cardio, or oh, I didn't, you know, get to go to my friend's birthday party and enjoy a Tito's and cranberry or whatever you enjoy. Focus on, you know, okay, I woke up this morning and I didn't go to Dunkin'. High five me. Mm-hmm. You know, I went to my friend's birthday party and I didn't have an entire plate of nachos. High five me. You know, those are the things that are going to compile over and over and over again to get you to that end goal. So my piece of advice for this topic right here is stop focusing on the little things that you're giving up and turn those little things you're giving up into tiny victories.
Because they are. If
because
you're really
victories.
looking at the end goal, like let's just say it's all tailored down to someone losing weight. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be a lot easier at the end of the day to be like, wow, I did so good. I turned all this down. I turned all that down.
Right.
I went on an hour and a half run instead of an hour run. It makes it a lot easier if you can. And then the more you do that, the more you tailor your mind to thinking like that, the easier it becomes.
It becomes second nature.
Well, those tiny little victories are actually your start today. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'll start tomorrow. But just like the little thing that you do is that start today.
And if we're going to apply it to the business world or something like that, say you're in an entry level position, you know, you can be like, hey, I stapled X amount of papers today. High five me. Yeah. You know, I was able to be recognized because I created an Excel sheet. High five me. It's not big things. You know, you didn't lead a meeting. You didn't, you know, make a sale or get a $1 million account. But it's those tiny victories day in and day out that are gonna boost you up.
Well, eventually those things that you're giving up are actually going to become a habit. So like I heard a guy on a podcast once, I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was like explaining what he tells his customers or people that like come see him for fitness advice, and he'll tell people just to go to the gym and just sit in your car, just drive from work to the gym and just sit there and do that for like a week until you're motivated enough to walk in. Like you start making that a habit.
You know, you may have you heard that on the Joe Rogan Experience, but Sergeant Daggett also says that.
Yep. Yeah.
Senior Master Sergeant Daggett said that on his episode that when he's working with Weight Watchers people, the first step for the first day is just drive to the gym, sit in the car, get there, and then drive home. And then he's like, the second day, get in there, walk into the door. You don't even have to open it. You could just walk in. If
you might get some looks, but it's not for them. It's for you.
Yep. And then he said that following week, your body's already in tune with showing up there. And now all you have to do is go in. So I like that. So your tip, if we're going to condense down what Jacob Popio is offering to everybody, is
break it into steps.
Break it into steps and allow yourself to form habits.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So far we have turn the negatives into tiny victories, allow them to form habits, and we'll see what kind of wisdom the little Confucius across the table has to offer.
I got to go back to like what I talked about at the beginning of my 2.5 minutes is just that there's always someone out there working harder than you. Whether it's true or not, have that mentality. And that can be applied to everything as, you know, an athlete, in a professional setting, as a boyfriend, as a husband. Literally can be applied to any of those situations that someone out there is putting that either minuscule more effort than you or a ton of more effort than you. And whether it's true or not, whether you ever run into that individual, because you may not.
Right.
And you might go through the rest of your life at the peak of, whatever you're doing. But if you keep that mentality that someone is always working harder than you and you work to your highest, ability, then in reality, no one is going to be working harder than you.
Right. Okay.
That keeps you accountable.
Amen to that. All right, guys. So
we hope you liked it.
Yeah. So our tips here are turn your tiny detriments into tiny victories on a daily basis. Allow them to turn into habits, and understand that if you keep the mentality that there's always somebody working or trying harder than you, you will be the hardest working person in the room. With that, if you want to support the podcast, one way that you can do so is by visiting www.patreon.com/the Apex. And the website, there's only 3 options. There's $1, $3, and $5. If you do a $1 donation, you get a shout out from us on social media. The $3 donation earns you a sticker, and the $5 donation earns you a sticker and an additional high five, essentially. Like, that's the $5 donation tier is really just there for people that want to go the extra mile. And we appreciate everybody that takes the time to donate. It's really a good way for us to get equipment, be able to travel and everything else. And that's, we do a lot of this for you guys. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to spread the message and be positive and impact your communities, because you hear what you hear here. Hear what you hear on the podcast. Yeah, there's a whole lot of hears there, but they get the point.
Here.
Cheerio. All right. Have a great day, guys.
See ya.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.